Yeah, there's a lot of men world in our communities who are, on the surface, seem like they're successful, had good lives, but in many cases they are quite isolated. You know, maybe they haven't maintained contact with their friends from when they were younger, or they got busy with their families and their work. And so they find themselves at times with not many people to really have that kind of open conversation with. They often come to us looking for friendship and connection. Some of them come because they've had some challenges with their mental health. And because of the nature of the relationships that form at the table, you know, there's a strong sense of connection. It helps them feel more socially connected. You know, they feel happier. Even though women are not at tables, they get the benefits of the man in their life feeling more connected and open. So there's some big knock-on effects as well as the benefits to the men. I'm David Poynton. I'm one of the co-founders of the Men's Table. Yeah, I was part of the first Men's Table. We started meeting in 2011. There was 12 of us. We met over dinner and a drink in a private room of a restaurant, and we had a different kind of conversation, one that was more open-hearted than many of us had access to. We could talk about the highs and lows of our lives and how we were feeling. 5 years on, we now have over 180 tables, over 2,000 men sitting at tables. Firstly, it's important that they check out the website so they get a feel for what it is. On the website, there's a list of dates of upcoming entrees. So the entree is an information night, and they get to come along and get a feel for it. It's no obligation. The cost is simply for the meal and a drink if they're attending in person. There's also entrees available on Zoom and are virtual, so they can join from anywhere in the country. After the entree, they get to make a decision. Is this something that they'd like to participate in? And if they would like to go ahead, they can either join an existing table, maybe there's one near them that has an empty seat, or they might be coming to an entree where a whole bunch of new men are coming in and they get to form a table together with those other men. Like all startups, we began from scratch. You know, we used spreadsheets for our contact lists, and we kept a record of, you know, who was booking in, who came, and then once they became a part of a table, you know, who the members of the tables were. So the ecosystem of spreadsheets started to get a little bit dense.
That was the first issue, was how do we set up a system where all of our 10, 15 staff can access that information securely, can update it, can record all the information we need about people wanting to join the men's table, which tables they are actually visiting, tracking all their interactions. And because we're dealing with health information, we had to do that securely.
And we were doing this deliberately because we wanted to understand our processes first, you know, how the business could actually run. And then at a key point in time, we decided to go to a CRM system to maintain a more coherent data set, and also had, you know, the opportunity to extend on the family of apps that we could use. And so Zoho came up as a natural solution.
The Zoho CRM really manages and stores the information about the complete journey that a person has with their interaction with the men's table. So we've set up the CRM to have all the basic name and address information. We have had external help from a customer consulting group.
And within CRM, we did a whole range of automations. In particular, some of the stuff we also did was around integrating CRM through to Google Sheets and also some other aspects of the Google suite. And so trying to remove manual aspects of their data entry. And so we would look to integrate components between the various systems. What we've been looking at more recently is, again, ways we can streamline their use of Zoho CRM Canvas views so that we can say, well, what are the particular fields that are most utilised? How do we need to present those to the users so that they can see that information nice and quickly, so that when they're on a phone call with a member, that they're getting the relevant information right there, and then they can really provide that great assistance through to their members.
We've set up with custom modules another database called Events. On that event, we can see all of the contacts within CRM who attended that event.
We've got a database of tables in the CRM, so we can manage them by groups, by tables. So our upcoming events, who comes, then having those men go off to tables. And we also have a table role database which connects or is a bridge between the contacts and the tables to know, are they a part of this table in a certain way?
One person might belong to a number of tables and their role in each table might be different. One table might have 10, 15 members, contacts. So in Zoho, we set that up as a interconnected modules so we could see who belongs to tables. And so we can then automate further processes. If somebody rings, our staff here will actually record notes, what the conversation was, what issues were raised by that person, and we record that information in Zoho. In terms of modifying that information, it was also important that we could track who changed the information when, because mistakes happen. People accidentally update the wrong information or they misunderstand what is required to be filled in. Zoho meant that I could look in the timeline and I could see exactly who modified that name and when, backtrack to what happened at that particular time, and then improve our processes so that it doesn't happen again. Whilst Zoho initially was all about recording information about our contacts, the people that are members or potential members, we also use it for tracking all of the organisations that we deal with from a funding point of view. So in the CRM, we record all of the government departments that we deal with, all of the various private organisations that are funders, a lot of these foundations and family offices that provide funding for charities. We've also loaded into Zoho all of the politicians that both state, local, federal government, to educate them about what we do, to find out what their priorities are. So all of that information is recorded in Zoho. What we're then also doing is recording what we call deals. In a commercial organisation, it'd be your sales pipeline. So against each of these organisations or individual contacts, we're recording the deal being, okay, there's a particular opportunity for a grant for $50,000. So we can then see in our deals pipeline how much deals we can expect to receive in this next 1 to 2 years. So we track that in the deals system within Zoho. That comes through to a Canva, so we can see all of our 10% deals together, our 20% deals, so we can see what's our likely cash flow going to be in the next month or 6 months or year. It's really automating our sales process or our funding process, because that's the entire thing that keeps us funded, is funding from those organisations. So look, the integration is all about automating everything that we do. Most of the integrations are within other modules of Zoho. So for example, we integrate the CRM with the Campaigns module. So all of the communication we do to our current members is done through Campaigns. It can identify who are people in our database who are funders, and we can then generate certain campaigns to those. It can separately identify people who are belonging to a table. So Campaigns can look at that table information and then generate newsletters that are customised to understand that the person is a current table member. We also integrate with emails. So the moment anyone emails from our staff members, if they email to or receive an email from somebody who's in our contacts database, that email is replicated inside Zoho as another email event or contact event. Again, when we look at a particular contact in the CRM or an organisation that's a funder, we can see all of the communications that's happened. They'll also diarise in the CRM when they should next call that person, because often we'll engage with a potential member and they'll say, look, there's some stuff happening in my life, I'm too busy at the moment, I'd like to talk again in another month or two, and maybe by then I'll have the time available to join a table. So that'll be diarised in the CRM, and I had to do a lot of work to figure out how to handle setting up all of those multi-connected databases. I use Zoho support for that, so I basically sent through my list of, here's what I'm trying to achieve, can you help? And then Zoho support came back and said, try doing it this way. Here's how you can customize fields. Here's how you can set up multi-relational records to do what we needed to achieve.
The kinds of things that I really appreciate about Zoho is just being able to drop into any of the different places that our business is run from to see what's going on, to pull out reports, to be able to get some fine-grained analysis of how we're growing or where there's a stuck spot. Yeah, we provide a high level of service, and many of the men tell us it's an impressive experience what they have when they come toward us because we care. And what we're trying to do is model that, you know, that's what we want men to do with each other at their own table, is just have that extra care. Because when they are bringing care into their community of men, that's a wonderful thing, and it ripples on beyond their table to their community as well.